All right. Good morning, I guess. Yeah, it is morning. Welcome to basically Big Brother 28 Week 1. I'm just going to try to real quickly go over what happened on Week 1, maybe not what happened on the episodes. I am recording this Friday morning EST. It's almost 1 a.m. The feed just cut back, and I know who is the HOH for the next week, but I'm not going to go over that because this is supposed to be focused on week 1. So I've been trying to keep up with the live feeds, live feed updates, all of that. So I'm trying to make this a concise version of what you need to know about week 1 of Big Brother 28 in case you're like watching through Big Brother 28 after the fact, you want some extra context, stuff like that. This is the place to be. I'm going to try to keep it uh, pretty simple and try to get through all that context. So, first of all, we gotta get through the icon groups. So this is a little bit important for some context. There was the competition that happened. Obviously, if you saw the episodes, there's 3 groups of 4 people who went and recruited an icon, and then 2 people were left out. So the Angela group is Mallory, Lala, Kamu, and Rome. The Devons group is Haley, Drew, Chuck, and Taylor. Rachel's group is Jason, Yash, Melody, and Lyric. And then the lamos who sat out and couldn't play in the competition were Barrett and Ashley. So, also, before the HOH competition, very important, Rachel died. Rest in peace. She is dead canonically, except they revived her in Big Brother Unlocked. But Rachel is dead. Rest in peace. And then to come and replace her was D. So now this Rachel's group is now D's group. Um, but now we get to the head of household competition. Who won the head of household competition? It was D. D was able to win. Um, and Rick's team, Devons's team, lost, and so Haley, Drew, Devons, Taylor, and Chuck are the first have-nots of the season. Oh, I forgot to put in here the have-not bed, but if you're watching the episodes, you'll see it's crazy. And the worst part about it isn't even the spinning; it's the creaking while it's spinning that just always throws people off. Um, but yeah, getting on to the day one alliances. I put one in quotes because it's day one, day two, maybe leaning into day three. This is kind of just the before the nomination alliances, like the really, really early alliances that are forming. So almost immediately the icons got together. I think it was D and Devon's first, and then Angela joined later. But they were like, well, obviously we should work together. We have targets on our back. And the other icons were like, okay, yeah, we should do that. That makes sense. Like, that is exactly what we should do. Um, and then there's another trio that formed. It's called the Cool Kids. No, they didn't name themselves that. People are calling them that behind their backs. Um, they're starting to call them the Cool Kids later on in the week. Um, and so this is the first major alliance. This is the crossovers. This is the alliance with the Icons and then Drew and Barrett, who are the super fans of the season. If you don't know, Drew was on Beast Games Season 1, and Barrett has a Big Brother podcast. I saw somebody say that Barrett was one of the people who was able to leak Raven in I think Big Brother 19 that she was going to be on the season, which is crazy work. So he's a super super fan. When he said he doesn't think there's been a super fan like him on the show, I believe him. But this is the crossovers. This is the alliance that the icons are genuinely loyal to. This is currently the Power Alliance, not just because D is in power, but because D is loyal to this group, right? And then there's the red corner, which doesn't have Angela in it, but it has the survivors in it, and then it has the cool kids in it. This is kind of a fake alliance, just to kind of make sure that D and Devons have the numbers in the house. The cool kids come to them and pitch ideas, and then D makes them think that her ideas are their ideas. That's kind of the dynamic that's going on there. There's this trio that people are calling the Littles. It's not actually an alliance. They've never formed anything. They've never done game talk between the 3 of them, form a trio alliance between the 3 of them. That has not happened. But it is plot relevant that we bring up the Littles. People are pegging them as a trio, at least before the nomination ceremony. They're going, wow, those girls are talking a lot together. We need to get out one of them, and maybe we can put them all up, or something like that. That was what was happening before nominations. And then here's Lime. This is the first showmance of the season. The show, it totally dogs on them in the episodes, showing still day 2 when they kiss, which is kind of funny. But this first showmance of the season. And then there's Taylor and Lala. I don't know if they have a final 2. The way they talk, I think they have a final 2. I don't know, but I think this formed pretty early on, and then the two of them are pretty close. So we get on to nominations, and what's important for nominations is we remember these groups. So I have in green are the people who won their safety in the competition, and in yellow the people who are safe because they are directly aligned with D. So as you can see with Angela's group, they're slim pickings. It's Mallory or Lala. In I should mention as well, Dee's logic for how she's going to get out of this HOH without much blood on her hands is she's going to do the fair thing and nominate one person from each group. And so out of Angela's group, it's either Mallory or Lala. Out of Devin's group, tough draw for Taylor. Chuck is won his safety and is already aligned with D. Haley is aligned with D in the red corner. Drew is aligned with D in the crossovers. So Taylor is kind of the only choice there. And then D's group, Jason won his safety, and I think Yash was D's target in the beginning of the week. I think that's why Yash was picked over Melody or Lyric. Um, and then again, there's the Lamos, but Barrett is safe because he's directly aligned with D. So the nominations are Mallory, Taylor, and Yash, and the house target becomes Mallory simply because Mallory had the audacity, the sheer audacity to cry and be upset that she was nominated. How dare she? She should know better. Uh, literally on the feeds, I heard people talking about how she wasn't handling it well, and then the episode came out and she was just like upset that she was nominated. Anyway, so Taylor and Yash are not the target. I think the target for D was actually Yash, but quickly after the nominations, the house consensus seemed to be that Mallory was the target and the house pariah. So that's how the nominations went down. And then the Melody of it all. So Melody, as soon as Mallory was put up on the block, was like, "Ooh, I can't be associated with somebody like her." And then the rest of the house noticed and was like, "Oh, she's not. I. That's not cool. Like, I know you are protecting your game, but like, show some loyalty, show some camaraderie, right? Like, that's not cool." And so for a while, D was actually considering Melody as the renom. That is something I want to throw out there that to be remembered. Melody was supposed to be the renom at this point in the game. Then the veto competition happened, and these are the veto players. There was no player's choice. Barrett and Melody were both chosen by random draw, which is really funny because Mallory was asking Melody, "Hey, if you're picked, would you use the veto on me?" And Melody was like, uh, I mean, yeah, in a perfect world, I'd love to. Basically, the Big Brother way of saying no. And then Mallory was talking to Barrett and was like, "Hey, you gotta win, and you used the veto on me, right?" And Barrett was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, of course I would." And then after she leaves, Barrett turns to the camera and is like, "I want to win, but I don't want to save anybody." So Mallory's totally on her own for this veto competition. Um, but of course, she's the one who wins. And so Mallory has the veto, and we got to start thinking about renoms. So for the renoms, if you got to remember, back to the groups. So she picked one from Angela's group, one from Devin's group, one from her own group, which I should mention Yash was very upset because in the HOH competition, D mentioned that they were all going to be safe, and D self admittedly in the diary room forgot that she said that. Um, but she was thinking about Melody being the Renom for a while, but then I don't remember who it was that talked to her about this. I think it was the Red Corner. I'm not sure. But they brought up the logic of, okay, you separated them into three groups, but there's actually a fourth group. There's the group of Ashley and Barrett who didn't play. Never mind the fact that there's a fifth group of Angela and Devons, but obviously they're aligned with each other, so she's not going to put up one of those two. But Dee was like, okay, I can put up Ashley, who is the only other person in the Lamos who didn't actually get to play, because Barrett is directly aligned with her. She can put up Ashley, it'll make sense. She'll get no blood on her hands. So she puts Ashley up, also because Ashley really isn't directly aligned with anybody, and so nobody's gonna be upset at her for putting Ashley up. But the question now is, who's gonna be the house target? Who's gonna go home? And like, Yash is kind of the house target because he's the big strong man, and that's house target material when you are threatening to win comps all the time. But really, it's now that Mallory took herself off the block, there isn't really a house target. So after the renom, we're gonna get into some new alliances that form. So Drew decided to form a parachute alliance with Melody. This is self-admittedly a backup plan and a way to make sure that if he gets put up on the block, they think to put up Melody instead of somebody from the crossovers. He's just using Melody as a shield and as like a fake final two. I'm gonna predict that this turns into a showmance. But in the live episode, he mentioned a girl's name that could either be his sister or his girlfriend, so I'm not gonna I'm not gonna force that at all. But I see this becoming a showmance at some point. This is Drew's basically like fake final two, his parachute alliance with Melody, and then the Sirens, Lyric and Melody, come together and lock in like a final two deal, and they want to work together. And yes, they specifically exclude Mallory because Mallory kind of the house pariah after what happened after the nomination ceremony. And then the the two almost showmances, Lime and then Drew and Melody, come together and they create Four Seasons Alliance. This is not really in chronological order. I think this happened much later in the game, but I'm just trying to remember all of the alliances that formed. Notably not the Four Seasons because that might be copyrighted. And as you can see, they named each other all of the different seasons. So Rome is winter, like Jon Snow. Drew claimed autumn. He claimed fall. Lyric claimed spring, and Melody was therefore summer. Um, it's an alliance going on. There's also Jason existing in the house. I swear he created more trios than this, but this is all that I could dig up and remember. On the left there's the court jesters with him, Drew, and Melody. On the right there, he has two trios, both consisting of Rome and one other person. So Rome and Lyric and Jason are the love triangle. Yes, that's what they're calling it. They named it that. They named it the love triangle, and Rome really thinks he's getting away with having a showmance. Now, the bottom right there, Jason has a trio with Rome and Lala called Mama's Angels. So we're gonna get into a little bit of the Jason of it all as an intermission of this alliance talk. Um, Jason was talking to the court jesters right after forming it, and he was like bragging all about how he's emotionally manipulating Angela and Devons, and he wants them to go home. He's been anti-Devons since day one. He was talking about how he was fake crying in front of Angela to get her emotions and to get her feeling like she's his mom, and that he's gonna make slop rice cakes for Devons on his daughter's birthday to try to get him feeling good about Jason. And um, I don't know if you guys remember who Drew is loyal to. Um, it's Devons and Angela. So Drew immediately runs that information back to Devons and Angela, and Devons is like, "All right, yeah, good info. I'll keep that in mind." And Angela immediately goes and starts breaking down in the diary room. Which honestly, people are making fun of her for that. I think that's totally fair. Um, get those emotions out. You thought you were making a real bond in the Big Brother house, and it turns out he was actively emotionally manipulating you, and he's not even that good at hiding it. I'd cry too, probably. So that's fair. Um, so back to some more alliances. B question mark. Um, this is currently a flirtmance. They were holding hands a little bit and cuddling a little bit, but they're trying to like not make it appear that they're in a showmance. Don't know if they're doing a great job because Haley was talking about how there's a bunch of Barrett's stuff in Dee's room just all over. But this is currently a flirtmance. It's gonna definitely evolve into a showmance at some point during the rest of the season. Go Barrett. Uh, and then this is one of the most interesting developments throughout the week is the red corner and the crossovers kind of did a merger, not like officially, but they realized if they came together, they had the votes to keep Ashley if they wanted to, because Ashley is just kind of a number at this point, right? And so it's kind of a fan name calling them the Red Cross, and they were like, "Hey, we have 7 votes here, and D could tiebreak, except D promised her tiebreak vote to Taylor. But we could tiebreak, and we have the votes. We could keep Ashley. She's a number. We could pull her to our side. And so this is the Ashley of it all. Um, I believe it was D. Barrett and Drew were talking to Ashley, and they were like, "Have the votes to keep you, but you should go and do a little bit of campaigning and make sure you have the votes to say." And the sort of thing you should say is like, "Hey, the House is flipping to keep me, and I want to make sure you're in the loop, and so you should give me your vote." Um, and so Ashley goes and she tries to do what she was tasked to do. And she goes straight to Melody, who's one of the people she feels closest to. And she's like, I have the votes. But Melody throws a wrench in the plan and she's like, who are the votes? And if you are thinking logically about the game, do you think you should divulge exactly who the votes are? Or should you just say, trust me, I have the house. The house is voting for me, and I want you to vote with me too. Because Ashley just exposes the Red Cross side of the house by name. She literally lists all 8 people by name to somebody who is kind of on the other side of the house. And so Melody takes that, and of course, who does she run that to but Drew and Barrett? And she's like, Ashley's trying to tell me you guys are all trying to keep her. Haha, isn't that crazy? And Barrett and Drew are like, haha, yeah, whoa, that's crazy. Yeah, of course it's not happening. Haha, whoa. And then they run back to the icons and they're like, Ashley is leaking the alliance right now. And so the entire Red Cross side of the house that was trying to keep Ashley is like, ooh, yeah, no, we can't keep her anymore. She's too much of a loose cannon. She's leaking our alliance. All that good stuff. So that leads us into the house structure. Um, this is a little bit of a mess. I have some explaining to do. On the left is the Red Cross side of the house. On the right is the Rome slash Jason side of the house. And in the middle is kind of like the floaters, I guess I can say. I don't know if I agree with the floaters term, but like the middle of the house, the people who are not super aligned. So I have Haley all the way to the left, almost off screen because like everybody hates her. It's really funny. People are bonding over how much they hate talking to Haley. Uh, it's crazy. And by association, they don't like the red corner or I should say the cool kids. They don't like because a lot of the nominees feel like the cool kids are the reason they're on the block, not even necessarily D, because they saw the cool kids hanging out in the HOH room a lot before nominations. So the cool kids are all the way to that left side because the only people who really like want them around are the people who are in this fake alliance with them. That's the Icons. The Icons want to keep them safe because they're numbers for them. But even though they are the most loyal to Barrett and Drew, and Barrett is kind of peeking over that middle line because he's trying to be like not involved so closely with the crossovers, but he's doing a bad job because he's in a flirtmance with D and spending most of his time with D, and people are clocking that. But Drew is doing a much better job of being in the middle and getting the T and bringing it back to the crossovers. I have Drew and Mallory next to each other. That's kind of just, I'm limited on space. I don't think those two are closer specifically. Um, but Drew and Melody are pretty close, as I mentioned earlier. The three girls are pretty close, except Lyric and Melody are a lot tighter. And Mallory, I don't know if she knows this, but she's kind of floating in the middle of the house right now as a little bit of the house pariah. There's Rome and Lyric on the side, and Rome, who's close to Lala and Jason, and Lala, who's close to Jason and Taylor. And poor Yash is kind of just close to Taylor at this point. I think he has a thing with Rome, but I don't know if Rome is actually sticking to it. And then in the middle, the house target at this point, because neither side really wants her, uh, is Ashley. Because the Rome side of the house would much rather keep Yash or Taylor around because they're numbers for them. And the Red Cross side of the house just decided that Ashley is not fit to be an ally because she just went and almost spoiled their whole secret alliance to the other side of the house. So poor Ashley's just kind of sitting in the middle there as the bigger house pariah than Mallory now that Mallory won herself off of the block. Um, it comes down to the eviction. Obviously, we have the B4 to play, the BB blockbuster between Ashley, Taylor, and Yash. And Yash takes it away. He's the big winner. All of his talk about winning competitions is finally coming to fruition. It is funny because he did, and you could classify that as a booth competition, and he won it, even though he was complaining in the preseason. He doesn't want booth competitions. But he did it. He took it away. He took himself off of the block, which means the vote is between Ashley and Taylor. And ooh, Ashley is unanimously voted out of the house week one, which is kind of sad for me because when the cast dropped, I said Yash was going to be the first boot. I had no doubt in my mind. He had first boot written all over him, but he won the BBBB. So now Ashley is our first boot. She will be remembered for eating a hamburger inside of the Big Brother house. Unfortunate. So I'm just going to go over real quick my understanding of all of the players' individual games and where they're at and what they would do if they won the HOH. So the newbies first. Barrett, his game status, he's very well entrenched in the Power Alliance, but his flirtmance with D is looking to get him in a little bit of trouble. Um, who would he target if he won HOH? I really don't know. I think he would try not to get blood on his hands, but I don't even really know about that. If I had to guess, he would put up somebody like Haley, Rome, and Yash, and maybe try to backdoor Jason because Jason's trying to get out. Jason's actively trying to backdoor his alliance. So I think it would be like Haley, Rome, and Yash as the first three, and then maybe a Jason backdoor. I don't know. I think this is my weakest one up here for the target of HOH. Um, Actually, no, I think Chuck definitely is. I know very little about Chuck's game. He's in the middle of the most disliked group in the house. Not very many people like the cool kids or want them to stick around, but Chuck is kind of on the bottom of the totem pole of getting targeted out of that alliance. I think Haley would go way before either of the two of them, and then Kamu would probably get targeted before Chuck at this point. That might change, though. I think Kamu has a higher potential of getting himself ingrained in the house if he stops just focusing on only caring about the red corner. If he won HOH, he'd probably target Rome or Jason. Um, if I had to guess, Jason, because Devins could tell him about how Jason's targeting him and get Chuck all riled up to get Jason out of the house. That's my guess. I don't really know. Um, Drew. Drew is in the Power Alliance, but he's not super entrenched in it because for some reason Angela just doesn't really trust him. I think this is Angela's paranoia kicking in. Some people are saying like reminding Angela of Quinn too much, and he was kind of involved in the gym thing that Angela was getting really paranoid about. And also his gameplay right now is kind of like a rat floater. He could easily become the house target if he's not careful. I think this is just because the last season I watched was season 15. But his gameplay is kind of giving Andy to me, where he has a side that he's loyal to, but everybody thinks they're in good with him. Um, and that's a really, really hard game to play. I don't know if Drew is cut out for it. I hope he is because he's been pretty entertaining so far in spreading the gossip and the tea around the house and getting people to um, get mad at each other. He's been kind of a catalyst for that, and I think the Big Brother house kind of needs that, and I think he benefits from that because now people are targeting each other and they're not really targeting him. Um, if he was to be the HOH, I think that he would try to backdoor Jason because he wants to make sure that Devins is safe and Jason is actively telling people he's going after members of his alliance. But if he doesn't do that, I think he would try to get the least amount of blood on his hands. I think he'd put up like Yash, a Taylor, and then maybe like a Lyric or something. He's in an alliance with Lyric, maybe like a Yash, a Taylor, and a Haley, something like that. Try to get the least amount of blood on his hands. Yash and Taylor because they're just on the block, and then Haley because everyone hates her. I think he would do something like that, and try to backdoor Jason or just target Jason upright. But I mean, he's in an alliance with Jason, so I don't think he would just put him on the block. I think he would maybe try to backdoor Jason, but that would also blow up his game as a rat floater. So I'm not too sure. I think he wouldn't want to win HOH at this point. I don't know. Um, Haley's the most hated person in the house. I mentioned it earlier. People bond over how annoyed they are of Haley. Nobody likes Haley except for the cool kids. Even the Survivor veterans who are in the red corner, they talk about how they don't like Haley. Like Angela and Dee were bonding over not liking Haley. Like it is crazy how disliked she is in the house. She is almost certainly going to be a nominee unless somebody in the red corner wins. She is just such an easy nominee at this point in the game. I really don't think that she's going to avoid the block unless somebody in the red corner wins HOH. And even then, they might convince her to go up as a pawn. I don't know. I don't think she would accept that, but she might not have a choice. Um, if she were to be HOH, I think that she would target Rome and try to get the Rome side of the house out. I could see her being somebody to put Rome and Lyric up on the block, but I could also see Dear Devins talking her into targeting Jason for them. Um, I don't know. Jason is the messiest player in the entire game right now. I think I spelled that wrong, but whatever. He has the most spaghetti all over the house. The icons know that he's targeting them, but he has a lot of allies in the house. How loyal are those allies? When push comes to shove, is Melody gonna stick her neck out for him? Is Yash gonna stick his neck out for him? Is Rome gonna stick his neck out for him? I'm not too sure about that, but those allies are there. He could potentially whip up the numbers to stay, even if somebody like a Devons or like an Angela tried to put him up or even backdoor him. I think he's charismatic enough to get the numbers on his side. Um, I'm just not sure if he's charismatic enough. You know what I mean? But if he were to win HOH, he told multiple people that his plan, not even just his plan, his dream, is to backdoor Rick Devens. And at some point in the week, his plan was to nominate the cool kids and then backdoor Devens when one of them wins the veto. I don't think his plan will have wavered from that. It could, but I bet that's what he would do: is he would nominate the cool kids. Sorry, I'm yawning so much. And then try to backdoor Devons. Um, Kamu, He's in the most disliked group in the house. However, he seems to have the most potential to branch out. Out of Chuck, Haley, and Kamu, I think Kamu has the highest likelihood of making other relationships outside of the cool kids that keep him safe. Um, Unfortunately, he is also seen as a competition threat. So I could see him going up on the block just because of that, or maybe even getting backdoored because of that if the wrong person got HOH. If he won HOH, I feel like he would try to go for the least amount of blood on his hands. He's not trying to make enemies, he's just trying to make friends at this point in the game. So I think he would put up Taylor, Yash, and Melody. Um, I don't think he'd put up Haley because he's in alliance with Haley. He would just go for the least amount of blood on his hands. I think that would be his play. I think that would be his best play, and I think that he's smart enough to realize that. Um, Lala Lala is very well entrenched in the Rome Jason side of the house. However, I have heard people talking about how they're a little sick of Lala. She's got a couple haters in the house. She seems to be rubbing people the wrong way. She really needs to be careful of that going forward. And if a Red Cross person wins, she might be a really easy choice for a pawn. I don't really see them putting her up, but it might be a really easy. I'll just throw Lala up there. People are annoyed by her. Just get her up there, be an easy pawn. You know what I mean? Um, if she won HOH, she has said that she wants to evict Angela as soon as possible, though I don't know if she would want to go for the jugular on week 2. If she doesn't, she'd probably just put up the cool kids. I don't see any reason why she wouldn't. Lyric. Lyric is in a showmance with Rome, and that's really kind of guiding her game. She's very well entrenched in that side, though. She has Rome, Jason, and Melody all fighting for her. She has multiple shields in front of her. Rome would get evicted in front of her. Jason would get evicted in front of her. Melody would get evicted in front of her. Mallory would get evicted in front of her. Maybe even Drew would get evicted in front of her. Like, she is very, very well entrenched in that side of the house. I don't think people view her as a threat. I don't think people are even thinking about putting her up. I almost wrote down that she should throw the HOH in my opinion, but then I remembered she needs to keep her showmance safe, so she probably won't, and I don't think that's in her nature anyway. And if she won HOH, she'd probably just throw the cool kids up there and see what happens. I don't think she's super emotionally invested or strategically invested in particularly who goes home. I think she just put the cool kids up, least blood on her hands, see what happens. Mallory, she was the house pariah before winning the veto. She's still with Ashley out, she still kind of is. She might be a good pawn if people are trying to get like the least amount of blood on their hands. She still has very few game relationships. However, I don't think anyone actually wants her to leave. I think she would just be an easy nomination. Um, if she becomes HOH, she mentioned she wanted to put D up on the block. She was the only nominee who was actually like mentioning to people she would nominate D. But it seems like later on in the week her mind was changed and she's now more so just thinking about putting up the cool kids, um, falling in line with pretty much the rest of the house. Um, Melody abandoning Mallory in the beginning of the week has left a lot of people seeing her as unloyal, maybe thinking too hard about the game. But she does have a close relationship with Lyric, Jason, and Drew, and she does have shields in front of her and in Rome and Jason, but she might become a target just because of the personality clashes, because of the way she treated the Mallory situation. She could become a target just because of that. And she is a strategic thinker, and if people catch on to that, she might not be able to last very long in the house. If she's the HOH, I'm not super sure. I think she'd just put up the cool kids. I think that would be the easiest thing for her to do. Um, Rome, he's in a showmance with Lyric. That's really guiding his game. But unfortunately for him, he's perceived as a very huge physical threat. And also, he's accidentally controls like a whole side of the house. Rome kind of controls his half of the house because he's the only one who's really like saying what he wants to do besides Jason. And I have no doubt that he's just going to run that side of the house into the ground. I don't think he's thinking about things super strategically. And at the very least, he's definitely not going to be able to be on the same level as D and her side of the house. So it's going to be interesting seeing what happens. If he wins HOH, probably just going to put the cool kids up. I don't really see why he'd do anything different unless someone gets into his ear about putting an icon up or anything like that. But he might eventually become chill with Kamu. I've heard people talking about how they're probably gonna, you know, get together and work on a game relationship or something like that. But I'm not super sure about that. Taylor, Taylor's my pick for the pawn every single week. She has a she has very passive relationships. She's really only close with like Lala and maybe Yash and Jason. If she wins HOH, she's absolutely putting up the cool kids. She's been saying since the beginning. She's upset at the cool kids and specifically Haley. She'd probably target Haley to get out, and she'd probably put up the cool kids if she got HOH. And Yash, probably also a pawn, but I think he would scare people off with his comp wins. Maybe a backdoor candidate. I don't know. He really has no game relationships except maybe Rome and maybe Taylor, so he really needs to work on that. And if he gets HOH, I'm pretty sure he'll put the cool kids up. Maybe put D up because he might still be upset at D, but I think he's gotten over it. Um, yeah, and those are the newbies. This is the icons. So Angela, I think this is the longest one that I wrote. She's very well entrenched in the Power Alliance. She is in a great spot in the game, but she is starting to get paranoid and she really needs to keep it together. I was telling my wife we're kind of waiting for her to not be in power, or her side of the house to not be in power, to see what she is going to do with that paranoia. She could easily blow up the crossovers by getting too paranoid about Drew, which is something she's already doing. She's already getting paranoid about Drew. She was right about Rome's side of the house, but she kind of got there in the wrong way. The whole like 7-person gym alliance isn't happening. The episode kind of framed it that she was right about the people going to the gym, but they didn't include her and Dee staring at the camera waiting for people to exit out of an empty gym for 20 minutes. So she could, her paranoia could get her in trouble, and it could get her alliance in trouble if she spreads it long enough. Um, but the good part about Angela's game is I think she's very good with the other side of the house. Out of the people on the Red Cross side of the house, I think Angela might be the least likely to get put up because I think she has very, very good personal relationships with the people on the other side of the house. The Littles all love her. She's had a great conversation with Yash. Jason and her are both emotionally manipulating each other at the same time. So each of them think that they're in good with the other, and so uh, she has a decent relationship with Jason right now because of that game that they're playing with each other. Um, Rome and Lyric, I think they like Angela. I think I don't think there's anyone who doesn't like Angela at this current point in time. I think that even though she's the only Big Brother returnee, I think that Dee and Devons would be put on the block before she would be. Um, so I think she's in a great spot right now. If she wins HOH, she definitely is going to try to backdoor Jason. She would take personally what Jason did to her, and she would probably put up like Rome, Lyric, Taylor, something like that. Whoever she has the worst relationships with in the house, but she would definitely be waiting for that veto to get used so she could put Jason right up on the block and backdoor somebody for 2 seasons in a row, and be able to tell him some crazy eyes, something, something, get him out of the house. Um, D. D's game status, she is doing very well. She created and entrenched herself in a power alliance. She handled the HOH in a very good way. She has almost no blood on her hands. There's only like Mallory or maybe Yash would consider putting her up on the block next week. She is getting a little too flirty with Barrett, and I do think that she's kind of closing off her potential to get cozy with the other side of the house. She's, I think, hanging out a little bit too much with the Red Cross side of the house, and she's not really getting personal relationships with people like Rome. I think she has personal relationships with Lyric, but the Romes of the world, the Yashes of the world, the Jasons of the world. She's not really getting in close with them. And she's not eligible for the HOH next week because she just was the HOH. So that is not applicable for her. And finally, Devins, which I learned on the feeds, his name is actually Patrick. His father's name is Patrick, and his name is Patrick. But apparently his dad goes by Pat, and so he goes by Rick. Um, that was a blindside for me personally, but he's very well entrenched in this power alliance as well. And I think he might be in the best position out of the icons right now. This is a personal opinion. I think a lot of people disagree with me, but he really can pick and choose who he wants to go with long term. If Angela and Dee start getting too much heat, he can flip to Barrett and Drew or vice versa. And even then, I think he still has the ability to flip onto the Rome side of the house or to flip like even flip in with Jason if some miracle happens with Jason's mindset. Um, I think that he really has his choice of alliances right now. And if the wrong people get into power, he might be in the best position to jump ship from the crossovers. Um, if he gets HOH, he's probably going to try to backdoor Jason. I think he would start with Rome, Lyric, Taylor, something along those lines. Although he does have a good, now that I'm thinking about this, he has a pretty solid relationship with Rome. So it might be like a Yash. Um, and I don't really know who he would put up. What I do know is that he would try to backdoor Jason. I don't think he'd put Jason up as the initial nominee, but I do think he'd try to backdoor him and get him out. Um, and that's it. This is our graveyard so far. Rest in peace, Ashley. And that is it for uh, basically week 1 of Big Brother 28. Hope you found this useful. See you next week, hopefully.